Hello and welcome to this guide for photoshopping Obama Hope posters brought to you by photoguides.net. You can find the original guide along with all the files you need to complete it at photoguides.net/photoshopping-obama-hope-posters. Today we're going to learn how to create one of these iconic Hope posters from Barack Obama's presidential campaign. This here is the version I've created in the tutorial, which is very similar to the original. So let's get started. The first thing we'll need to do is cut out our person, and to do this we'll need the polygon lasso tool. Every time we click, we set a new anchor point, and we will of course need to trace right around our person or object. This can take a while, which is why I've sped up this process. Once this is done, you can right click on your selection and select Layer via Cut. A new layer should appear with just your subject, and you can proceed to delete or turn off your background layer. We're now going to go ahead and create our new background layer. So we're going to first add a new layer, drag this below our person layer, select a new color and choose the color FDE5A9. This is the basic yellow which is used for the skin color. Select OK, select the paint bucket tool and then paint the color onto your background. We can now start to create the different layers to which we'll apply our colors. We're going to start by creating the blue and yellow striped layer, the bottom one. To do this, we're first going to need to duplicate our person layer, then select Image, Adjustments, Threshold, and then choose a high number around 190. As you can see, the higher the threshold, the more black there is in the image, and it's this black that we'll be adding the color to later on. Continue this process 3 more times so that we end up with 4 different layers to which we can apply the colors to. Each time, however, we're going to need to choose a different threshold. Once again, duplicate your Obama layer and then drag it to the top. Select Image, Adjustments and Threshold, and this time we're going to enter the number 150. This layer we're creating is going to be the light blue layer, or the third layer from the top. Once again, for our red layer, we're going to duplicate the Obama layer, move it to the top, select Image, Adjustments, Threshold, and this time select 120. And finally, we're going to do the same thing one more time and choose the threshold of 90. This is going to be our dark blue layer on the top. You can now see the 4 different layers that we've created, each one with a different level of darkness. One of the defining characteristics of the Hope photo is that it's styled like a vector, so we're going to need to apply some filters to these layers to replicate the same effect. We're first going to select our top layer, and then we're going to go Filter, Artistic, and select Palette Knife. You can see that this filter replicates the vector styling by simplifying the shape massively. Because this is our top layer though, we need to keep as much definition in the eyes as possible. So I'm going to reduce the stroke size to 7 and increase the strokes detail to maximum. Once you've tweaked these settings, you can click OK and go on to the second layer. Once again, Filter, Artistic and Palette Knife. Because this is our second layer, we don't need as much definition, so we can change the stroke size to between 20 and 30. Once this is done, you can click OK. This exact same effect can be applied to the third and the fourth layer, so you don't need to tweak any more settings. You can quite easily repeat this filter by clicking Filter and then clicking Palette Knife right at the top. This will apply your most recently used filter with the same settings. Alternatively, you can press Ctrl or Command F. So now that we've effectively vectorized all of our layers, we can go ahead and delete the white space. We're first going to need to select the top layer, then select the Magic Wand tool, deselect Contiguous so it selects all of the white in the image, and then click on one of the white spaces. Once the white's surrounded by marching ants, you can click Delete. You'll need to repeat this step on all of the other layers until the background is showing through. At this point, make sure that your background Obama layer isn't turned on. We can finally start to add the colors to our layers. The first one we're going to add is the blue and yellow stripes on the bottom layer. In order to do this, you'll need to use a pattern file which I've created. You can find this on photoguides.net. Once you've downloaded and installed this file, you'll need to right-click on your bottom layer, click Blending Options, then click Pattern Overlay, and then select the newly added pattern from the list. You'll need to adjust your scale so that the lines are quite small but still visible. Step back a few meters from your screen. you shouldn't be able to define the lines. You can now bring your third layer back into visibility. This is going to be our light blue layer. We're first going to need to select the colour 71969F. We can then click OK, click the paint bucket tool, and then click on the black section of the photo. We're now going to add our red layer, so we're first going to bring it into visibility, and then we're going to select the colour D71A21. Select OK, and once again use the paint bucket tool to apply the colour. And finally, we're going to add the dark blue layer. So bring the top layer into visibility, and then we're going to select the colour 00324D. Once again, apply this colour, and there we have our basic image. Now at this point, the image is looking quite messy. Remember that the original is very simple, so we're going to need to use a combination of the paintbrush tool and the eraser to clear all the messy points in all of our layers. You might like to try and paint the entire right side of the face in red. To do this, you'll need to select the paintbrush tool, set the hardness to 100%, and then paint on the red layer using the same colour as before. We'll also need to refine the edges of the top blue layer. To do this, first select the top layer, select the eraser tool and set the hardness to 100%, zoom in, and then erase around the edges to make them as clean and simple as possible. This refinement is quite time consuming, but the extra care and detail really does make a difference. Use a combination of both the paintbrush tool and the eraser tool on all 4 of the layers to clean up your image to make it as simple as possible. We can now start to add the blue and red background. We're first going to need to create a new layer and then drag this layer right to the bottom. Now at the moment our skin color layer is protruding the background, so we're going to need to command click on our Obama layer, then click on the skin color layer, then right click and select inverse and simply delete. This gets rid of all of the skin color that isn't within Obama's face. We can now select our background layer, select the paint bucket tool, choose the red that we were using earlier and apply the color to the background. We can now add the blue background, so we're going to first create a new layer, select the rectangular marquee tool, and then draw a rectangle from left to right, passing through the very tip of Obama's head, as you can see here. Once again, select the paint bucket tool, this time choosing the light blue, and simply apply your colour to the background. We can now crop the image, so we're first going to select the crop tool, and then we're going to draw our path, once again passing through the very tip of Obama's head to the bottom of the canvas. This way you can't see where the transition from red to blue occurs. Once you've done this, just click OK and you've got your cropped image. We're now going to add the hope text to the bottom of the image. So we're first going to need to increase the canvas height. The amount can vary, but for this image I'm going to use 48 centimeters. Once I've done this, I'm going to select all of my layers and then drag them all to the top of the canvas. I'm then going to add a new layer above all of my other layers. I'm going to select the rectangular marquee tool, and I'm going to draw a path at the very bottom of the image. You can then select the paint bucket tool, choose the dark blue that we were using earlier, and apply the colour to the selected area. We can now add the text, so we're first going to select the text tool, and then we're going to set the font to Futura. We'll also have to change the style of this to medium. The actual font used in the Obama Hope poster is called Gotham. This, however, is a font you have to pay for, and Futura is one of the nicest free fonts that I found. Type whatever word you want to use, and set the colour to the light blue of the background. Finally, we're going to add a small border to the outside of the image. To do this, we're going to go to Image and select Canvas Size. I'm going to increase the height and the width both by 2 centimeters, so I get a 1 centimeter border on all corners. All that's left to do now is add a new layer below all my other layers, and then select the yellow skin color that we were using earlier, and simply apply that to the background. And that's it, an Obama Hope poster in just a few minutes. I have since made a few more changes to my photo, including a lot more refinement. I've also deleted the red and light blue layers from within the eyes, and I've changed the font to a new one called Nevis, which you can download for free over at Photo Guides. This has been another Photo Guides tutorial. Remember to check out the original guide to find all the files you might need to complete this tutorial yourself. I'm Ash Davies from photoguides.net.